yes, Ashley, like y'all needed to win one. Like that was a must win, but I think it needed to feel more like a win. Like I don't know that New York fans feel confident in what
It
that
felt
win.
like a win. It felt like a win. Have you ever been to a Heat game?
Yes,
Down here
I
in
have.
Miami?
Yes.
Okay, well, it's home court advantage for 3 and 4 also, all right? This is the 6th borough. Come correct. Just know that, all right? It's going to be a whole lot of Knicks fans in the arena, and I will be one of them. Thank you very much. Call it MSG number 2.
This is your time to show people that you are one of the special players in this league. I definitely think he has a talent to do it.
Here
But
goes Natalie.
Now it's time. Now it's time for him to be special on both ends of the floor.
Get your popcorn ready, Mark, because Natalie's about to show you why she can't stand Kevin Durant and why she was blocked by Kevin Durant on Twitter. Go ahead, Nat.
You were blocked by
Show
him?
the people.
Anything short of the finals, to me, is a disappointment for the Denver Nuggets. They've been the true dominant team in the league from beginning to end. I covered the Nuggets for 8 years, and something always happens to them. They're like the Clippers. Like something always.
I can't even explain it, like how much I love the fan base. You know, I was getting messages from them like people crying, like sad in my DMs. I'm like, man, like they got me sad. I'm like, bro, like y'all don't know what's going on. Like just calm down, man. Like we making progress. I want to tell them we making progress, but I don't want to tell them because I don't want to spoil what's going on. You know, so it's like, man, just be patient. If anything, be patient with me because like I'm not trying to go nowhere. You know, no matter what you guys see. Like, the final say-so is what's going to be printed out when I'm signing and stuff like that. Don't worry about what everyone else is saying, you know? And, man, I love it. I love the community so much, man. It's like I tell everybody it's my third home because Florida, Louisville, they ain't here. Like, but I'm here for 5 years, so, like, this is my home right now. I mean, it's a business. It's a business at the end of the day, and if you're gonna represent yourself, you know, you gotta have a strong mind. I wouldn't say you get out there and put your feelings in it because it's not about feelings. You know, you can't take things with oh yeah, I don't like what you said. I don't agree with this. You know, it's like what they feel is how you feel. You know, it's a grown man thing at the end of the day. So you got to be a grown man if you're gonna handle business. I didn't really like do this to prove anyone wrong or really care about what anyone had to say. You know, it's anything I had to prove myself right. You know, like I know what I'm doing, and I felt I did the right thing.
The respect has always been there. The appreciation has always been there. You know, we both love the Ravens, and we both love this community. And it took some time. In the end, it was really two people, you know. And I was dealing with Lamar Jackson, the agent, very impressive, patient, demanding, honest, straightforward. You know, it wasn't always easy. You know, I'd rather deal with Lamar Jackson, the player, I think. But in the end, it was just Lamar and I talking, texting, emailing each other, trying to get a deal done. There were really no other factors involved.
All right, welcome to Brother from Another. And as Reeta Hubbard, the NFL chick, has so appropriately and eloquently said, it is Lamar Jackson signing day. Well, even though he signed already, it's Lamar Jackson announcement day. The announcement. The press conference has happened, and he is staying with Baltimore. And Reeta, I really want you to take this over. Great shirt, by the way. I really want you to take this over because the Golden Girls are staying together. Nobody's moving out. We can't. Hey, Sophia's not leaving. Like that, the whole show would be over if Sophia left. You know. So the Golden Girls are staying together in Baltimore. They moved from Miami to Baltimore in the face of Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, and Eric DeCosta. I want you to tell everybody just what this means to Baltimore, because I think that's central to the story. Lamar Jackson and Baltimore just go together. What does it mean for the city and the community?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this before, Mike. I truly believe that Baltimore was the best place for Lamar to be. This town loves Lamar. He looks like a lot of kids that live here, so representation is very important. Baltimore is a city that is almost 60% Black. So when you look at that and you see a guy that looks like Lamar play football at a high level the way that he did in this city, I think it's something that's very a big deal here. And like Lamar said, people was in his DMs crying. I remember when he did the post on Twitter about I asked for a trade on March the 2nd. the amount of memes and GIFs that came out from people that lived in Baltimore. I'm not going to be a Ravens fan no more. I'm a Lamar fan. You know, I mean, and look, they were lying. People jump back on when people win, but that's how important that Lamar is to Baltimore City. And I've always felt that Baltimore was the place for him to be. I know we talked about Atlanta potentially being a landing spot for him previously, and it would have worked, of course, right? Because they had Michael Vick, so they had a similar situation already, plus they had the cap space. But really, Baltimore was the one that gave him a chance. They went up and traded for him in the 2018 draft, made him the last pick. So they believed in him when a lot of other teams were skeptical about him playing quarterback. It just always felt like this was home for him. And it felt good for him to reiterate that this feels like home to him outside of Louisville, outside of Florida, because it is very, you know, I think it's very synonymous on both sides in terms of how everybody feels. So this had to get done. It had to get done when it happened, because you have a new offensive coordinator in Todd Monken that came in. You got OTAs that's coming out. The worst scenario possible, Mike, would have been them going into training camp, still dealing with this dilemma, potentially Lamar not coming with a new offensive system, new offensive players. It would have been disastrous. So I'm really glad that both sides were able to get this done, because it was long overdue. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, it was long overdue, and I'm just wondering why we got to this point. I understand what they're saying. I understand what Lamar Jackson is saying. It's about business and you can't get into your feelings. He said that, although I feel like he got into his feelings along the way at some point. And the Ravens did too, in a very corporate way. Yeah. And they had help. Okay, the Ravens had help. So they should have thanked Lamar Jackson at this press conference. They also should have thanked at least 10 to a dozen NFL owners who didn't make it more difficult for them. Owners and general managers who, if they had been in their right mind, we talked about church last time, so that little church talk. In my right mind, that's when the church mothers get up and say, I thank God for a reasonable portion.
All right, come on now.
Then I'm in my right mind today. But a lot of these general managers and owners were not in their right mind because Lamar Jackson was available and nobody gave him an offer, an interview, a come sit down and let's see what you're talking about. So they were able to get the deal done. But I just don't want us to get lost in the revisionist history in the feel-good moment of today. Look, I'm glad Lamar Jackson is staying in Baltimore, a place that he loves and a place that loves him back. This reciprocity is important, but it's also important to remember where we were a couple of months ago. Lamar Jackson saying he did ask for a trade. Lamar Jackson timing out his tweet perfectly. John Harbaugh is sitting down and he's like, hey, what's up? They're like, yo, man, did you see the tweet? What tweet? No, I don't know.
That definitely
and
happened.
Team saying, and Jim Irsay, a villain in Baltimore for different reasons. Jim Irsay saying, yeah, you know, I love the guy, I just don't love guaranteed contracts. Why did we get to this point? Like, why do we have to go through this to get here?
I agree with you. The thing is, though, is that Lamar said in his press conference that he did talk to a couple of other teams, and that, I guess he just stopped talking to them because maybe he didn't want to go there. So take that, as you may. But according to him, he did talk to other teams. Now, obviously, we know that no one put out an offer sheet, but Eric DaCosta was on Pro Football Talk on their podcast talking to Mike Florio, and he said that they had already put out there that they had every intention on matching whatever teams were going to do in terms of doing the offer sheet. So while you and I agree that we believe that there was maybe some soft collusion going on, and by soft, I don't think that like they went into a room and said, we're going to collude against Lamar Jackson. I think that was a stand after the Deshaun Watson contract situation where owners were like, we're not doing that again. And Lamar just so happened to be the contract to come after that. But ultimately, I really do think that the owners came together and said, well, that's going to be the last time that happens anytime soon under our watch, right? So the situation with Lamar was simply that who was going to be the one that put the offer sheet in. And it's very possible, Mike, too, that teams didn't want to do the Ravens' dirty work, that they didn't want to be the ones to put in the offer sheet to set the market for Lamar Jackson for the Ravens. And if Lamar is if what he's saying is true and that they had a conversation, then look, hey, if the Ravens are telling us that we're going to match whatever we do, we're not going to do this anyway. We're going to just go ahead and sit this out. Ultimately, it worked out for the Ravens and for Lamar, but it is some question marks that we still have to have in that regard.
You know, it's beautiful how it worked out this way financially. You see the numbers there. Lamar Jackson, average per year, you know, he makes the most in football on average. You know, he's $52 million a year, so he's making more than Patrick Mahomes at 45. So it's just going to be this continuous shuffle, I think, is coming. Right now, Lamar Jackson's at the top, followed by Jalen Hurts. But, hey, Patrick Mahomes, that number is going up very soon. Josh Allen, I imagine, that number is going to go up. It's going to keep shifting as these great. And Joe Burrow is coming. Yep. So that number is going to go up as well. He'll be up there. It'll be 50, it'll be 53, 55.
Yep.
Who knows how high it will go. So that's the beautiful part of it. Financially, these great players getting what they deserve, and it still may be underpaid if you think about what NFL franchises are worth and what these quarterbacks bring to their organizations. But also, like the Baltimore story, as you said, I think that's wonderful, and it shouldn't be taken for granted that there's a match between community and quarterback. Now, we want it to be that way. It's not always that way. It can be a quarterback who is there and he says all the right things, but sometimes it's not genuine. Sometimes there's not that connection. It's just, or there's a connection during football season. Then when football season is over, that guy kind of fades away. That's not happening with Lamar Jackson. I mean, just here at the press conference, and optics matter. You said representation matters? Yes, representation matters. Optics matter too. How many cities would say, yeah, that's right, could handle it with Lamar Jackson at a press conference representing himself with the hair out and just doing his thing? I mean, I love it. I love that.
And the wet wavy going on.
I love it. He looks like the city. He sounds like the city. It's just, He is a representative. And he really is. I'm not saying he's the best quarterback in the league. I have much respect for Lamar. He's not the best quarterback in the league, but he's one of one. Nobody quite does it like Lamar Jackson. Even if you say, hey, other quarterbacks have the ability to run. Yeah, but nobody runs like Lamar. Nobody runs and slings it like Lamar. Nobody has this offense built around him to this point like Lamar Jackson. So it's just cool to see, Rita.
Yeah.
The whole story is great.
And you mentioned that one of one. John Harbaugh actually said the same thing. He said Lamar is one of one. You know, he is very important to what this team's success is, and based on when you look at the win-loss record, I believe it's 45 wins and 16 losses. That's essentially 3-1 if my math is right, in terms of wins and losses that Lamar brings to this team. It is extremely important for him to be a key player in terms of what the Ravens want to do. And I just love the fact that in addition to Lamar that has accepted and embraced this city, other players have done the same thing. Odell Beckham Jr. I don't even think he's been here a month. And it feels like he thinks that he's a Baltimorean already. But that says a lot about the culture of this town and how big football means to Baltimore City and how the players see that and how infectious that is. So I just love to see the outpour of love and support for Lamar because he definitely deserves it. I have been a person that believed that he should have had this done, and mainly because the NFL is not for long. You don't know how long you're going to be here. So getting paid essentially after your 5th year, to me, is a delayed payment. But nonetheless, I'm glad that he got it done. But Lamar should have probably I wish he would have gotten paid 2 years ago because he absolutely would have deserved it then, and he deserves it now.
Well, there was some, congrats to him on the deal. There was some money left on the table just because.
I don't want, hey, man.
Yeah, we're not getting to it.
I say the same thing, but what's done is done.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Hey, I know it's a day of celebration. I'm wearing my purple Ravens tie in celebration. It just so happened to work out that way. Real quick before we switch gears and talk to Kurt Helin in a little bit. Real quick, now that they have a new strength and conditioning coach and they got Lamar Jackson in place, can they keep Lamar Jackson healthy, and how good will they be? Can they keep him healthy? How good will they be?
I mean, listen, the strength and conditioning coach appeared to be a guy that players didn't love, and we found that out when the NFLPA grades came out. And eventually he got departed from the Ravens. So you really hope that whoever they bring in, well, it's a guy that was already on the staff, I believe, that got promoted. You really hope that this next person absolutely can do what they can to make sure Lamar is going to stay on the field. Because as we know, he hasn't played the end of the last 2 seasons. And so it's very important for this team's success for Lamar to stay healthy. So we'll see how this goes, because there's a new era. You got new strength and conditioning coach. You got new offensive coordinator. You got new players. Hopefully that's enough to keep Lamar up and right for the majority of the season.
All right. So I feel like, you got the Golden Girl shirt on. We're talking about Lamar. I feel like there should be something like The Wire. There should be like something that speaks to Baltimore. We gotta figure that out. Like the most famous Baltimore show. Although, who was your boy who said, who was the corner who said, I got to tell y'all, I wasn't really feeling The Wire? Who was that? It was a Raven.
Probably Marlon Humphrey. If I had to guess, it was Marlon.
That's what it was.
Because that's what Marlon does. Marlon loves to be the heel and everything. He loves it.
He was like, I'm not feeling it. I'm like, man, keep that to yourself.
He also doesn't like mac and cheese, so we can't trust him, okay? I just want to put that out there. I love you, Marlo. You're my guy. He doesn't like mac and cheese, so he's not to be trusted. Okay.
Yeah, I'm watching. Mac and cheese and The Wire.
Exactly.
Can't be trusted. See you, Humphrey. We'll talk some hoops coming up next. Kurt Helin. We got to talk about the series. You know what series? That series.
He's a headed snake, and when he's playing unbelievable basketball, which he's more than capable of doing every night, their team just never goes away. And so it goes back to us having to be ultra, dialed in and locked in for, game 2, knowing that he's going to come out, firing, Clay, all the guys going to play better. Team's going to play better. Crowd's going to be even louder. So, as long as, Steph's on the other side, on the other team, he always gives their team a chance to win.
Game 1s are great for that reason. You feel it, and you see it on tape, and then you can adjust from there. I just think we can play with more force overall. I thought they were the more aggressive team last night. And with a little more energy, a little more force, then I think we're much more likely to be attacking and getting to the foul line.
All right, you just heard from Anthony Davis and Steve Kerr. That series I talked about, of course, it is Lakers, Warriors. Game 2 was tonight. Lakers won a thrilling Game 1. And Kurt Helin, when I hear Steve Kerr say more force, I think that is coded language for we're going to unleash Draymond. We're going to unleash Draymond.
In what capacity?
We're going to put Draymond. I mean, more force means, I can see some stuff happening. There it is. Need Draymond at his best. All right, Marcus Thompson, that headliner. I think Draymond at his best is not the Draymond who's scoring 16 points. It's the Draymond who's like up in somebody's face and people are hitting the floor. What do you think, Kurt?
Yeah, definitely some of that. It's funny. Seth Pardow, who's used to work for teams and is now kind of an analyst for a couple of places, has this great line that the best adjustment is just to play better. And sometimes I think that that's what they're really saying. Like, we got to play better, like between game 1 and game 2. But I think that's part of it. At the end, you saw in the 14-0 run, like, not to get bogged down in the X's and O's, but Looney wasn't stopping him. So they put in Poole for Looney and went small. And that is all Draymond. What makes the Warriors able to go small and successful is that Draymond Green can defend Anthony Davis fairly well, or switch out onto guards and stay in front of LeBron or whoever. So I think you're going to see that. I think that they're going to try to bomb threes, get small, space the floor, and not necessarily just match up. I mean, Looney will start, but I don't know how long that'll last. Like, it might be I hope you enjoyed your 3 minutes at the start of the half. Goodbye. It's been nice seeing you. Like, it might be one of those games.
For me, though, what exactly can they do better than what they did on Monday night? Tuesday, because correct me if I'm wrong, they had plus 20 of threes. The 21, I believe. When I do the math, that's at least 63 points that you got off of threes in general, right? So it's not like they played bad. And actually, the Lakers didn't really play that great to me when you watch it. It just felt like, unfortunately, this is not the Sacramento Kings and the Los Angeles Lakers. And so this is just a different type of task that they have. But I didn't feel like that they played bad. So what can they do differently tonight that essentially they didn't do on Tuesday?
They've obviously, look, it starts with they've got to slow Anthony Davis down a little. And the problem they ran into is that the Lakers hunted switches. Most of Davis's buckets came after a switch with Poole or Curry or Thompson guarding him in the paint. And they're just, look, even Thompson's a pretty good defender. He's just not going to be able to match up that way. So I'm curious how they adjust tonight, how they're handling those switches, how they're not letting, get Draymond on him. Don't let some, who can defend a bigger guy. Don't let these small guards get on them. And then the other part of this, guys, Anthony Davis played 44 minutes and the entire second half. And LeBron played 40 minutes. This is an every other day series the whole way. Do the Lakers wear down? Like, I'm just not convinced Anthony Davis has 4 more of those in there. And I'm saying 4 because, they need 3 wins, but they're going to be a Steph Curry game. Like, so, like, that's really the question for me. Can he keep doing that? Because I'm not convinced.
Hey, but you know what? I think Rita and Kurt, I think both of them are susceptible to wearing down. I mean, the Warriors, you look at their core, all the over 30 guys. You look at Steph, you look at Clay, you look at Draymond. I think they could wear down as well. And obviously with the Lakers, and it's not an age thing with Anthony Davis. It's just his body. We know it. I go into the playoffs this year. I identified 3 players. I said 3 players. This is before the playoffs started. I said, I'm going to watch these guys because they are, no disrespect, the most fragile players in the league. Just medically, they're fragile. Okay, not mentally, not their heart. It's just they're gonna go to the emergency. We're gonna see them in the emergency room at some point. Number 1 on my list, Chris Paul, already out. I knew that didn't surprise anybody. Chris Paul, number 1. Number 2, Joel Embiid. And number 3, Anthony Davis. He played 44 minutes. I'm watching you, Anthony Davis. He can't have 44 again. Another 44, then he's not going to be available for games 3, 4, and 5. I mean, I just think he's out. But let me ask you this, though. Kurt, do you think, because I said it's going to come down to the wingman. We kept talking about Steph and LeBron. So let's say those are the headliners. That makes Anthony Davis a wingman for the Lakers. Pretty damn good wingman.
Yeah.
Who's the wingman for the Warriors? Who needs to match the wingman for the Lakers? Who is that guy?
I think on one hand, it's really easy. They need a Klay Thompson game. They need Klay to step up and have one of his nights. He's not quite the same post-injury, but he's still capable of those big nights. The other thing they really need, Jordan Poole not to be terrible. He was better in game 1. He was awful in the first series. They can't have bad Jordan Poole minutes, especially if they're going to go small. They are banking on him to maybe dribble a step up into that three rather than just launch it from 38 feet. That I watched that, and all I thought was of John Wooden. I was like, be quick, don't hurry. He hurried. He rushed that thing when he had a second to take a beat. And like, they need a better version of him. They need those guys to step up. Because it's not, look, Looney's not giving you points. Like, they're going to need Thompson to have a huge game for them. And maybe Wiggins.
I'm with Coach Kerr, though, with the idea of that, game one allows you to see how everything is being played and then be able to assess later. So I do think that Golden State will find a way to win tonight's game. If I can switch your gears a little bit to the other side of the coast, Philly, I understand Joel Embiid only played 26 minutes in yesterday's game, and I know that he has been injured. But how does that play into this series? Because Boston literally just blew the doors off the Sixers yesterday, and then they barely got away with a win. To me, the Sixers in Game 1. So how do you see this playing out? Because it appears that Embiid is going to be dealing with this throughout the series.
Yeah, he's got to play. Look, he faded. He actually was good in the first half. 5 blocks in the first half. Most of his points came in the first half, but they're going to have to limit his minutes because by the third quarter, you could tell he wasn't moving as well. And then the Celtics exploited that and went at him. They've got to find a way to get, even if it's limited minutes, get the best out of him and then get him out like shorter 26 minutes, but over 4-minute bursts or something. I don't know quite how Doc Rivers is going to do that. He's going to have to find those minutes. He's going to need more out of B-Ball Paul. He's going to need a whole lot more out of James Harden and Tyrese Maxey in those games. And then every day on the way into the gym, into the practice facility, Doc Rivers needs to stop and light a candle at a church that the Celtics don't decide that's a game they want to play. Because I still think they're the best team when they go, tonight we're going to be focused.
So do you think it comes down to that? They've been dealing with that all year, Kurt. They looked at one point, I looked at their losses for the season in the regular season, and it's scary. If you really break it down, it's their record against good teams was really good, but they had a bunch of losses to teams that either didn't make the playoffs, were play-in teams. That's where the bulk of their losses came, including 3. I can't emphasize this enough. They lost 3 times to the Orlando Magic. 3 times to Orlando. They gave up 150 points, 150 to the OKC Thunder. Okay, so they are a team that just looks down. They will look down on you. They'll be bougie on you, a little condescending. Oh, you don't belong here, or whatever. We don't like that. I only deal with champagne. Don't bring me this. I only deal with champagne. So do you think it's a matter of focus? If they focus, do you have them winning the East and winning the whole thing? The whole thing?
I picked it before, so I'll stick with it before the playoffs started. They have a gear I don't think there's another team in the NBA can hit, but they did it. Look, horrible Game 5 against Atlanta, where they just, we got this. We're home. We're going to roll through them. They don't. Then in Game 6, they play them even most of the way, and they get to about the last 5-6 minutes of that game, and they go, all right, let's end this. And then they play 5 minutes of brilliant basketball, like the third quarter last night. You get these stretches where you're like, wow, nobody can match this. There's nobody in this year's NBA that's as good as this. Michael, guys, I just worry about teams that don't bring it. And if you don't have that killer instinct, if you don't bring it every night, this is too good a Sixers team to do that to. You can't give them 2 games because they'll get some.
Like they did the other night. Like they snuck one out the other night when James Harden had that big game. I don't really know, is it youth that's doing that as opposed to maybe more experience? Because obviously James Harden has had the experience and, Embiid has been here a while. I just don't really understand because I agree with you. I do think that there's a gauge that a lot of teams don't have, but is it inexperience that's allowing them to falter in the situations that they've been in?
I wish I had an answer for you. I really do, because it's not Missoula. It's like they did it under Udoka last year for shorter stretches. He seemed to snap them out of it a little faster, but they did it last year. they're doing it again this year. And it's not like they're inexperienced and haven't been. Tatum and Brown and the core, Smart and the core of this team have been to a bunch of, they went to the finals last year. They have been to a bunch of big stages, and they just, that drive isn't there every night. And that's, it's hard to trust teams like that. Like they don't like mac and cheese or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all right, what else? What else? So Marlon Humphrey doesn't like The Wire, doesn't like mac and cheese. What? Did he think Lakers, Warriors is boring? What is it? Come on.
Probably. But
is he a contrarian?
Yes.
Is he a contrarian? Is he just that guy?
Very much so.
There you go.
Very much so. Very much so.
Okay, well, welcome. Hey, Marlon, come on to Peacock. Come on to Peacock and the sports media. There's a great home for you. That we love contrarians. Let me ask you this. We've talked about Lakers, Warriors. We've talked about Sixers, Celtics. We haven't mentioned, appropriately, the Denver Nuggets. I feel like they haven't been mentioned most of the year. Jokic is mentioned, the Nuggets aren't. It's Jokic versus Embiid. It's the Suns. It's the Lakers. It's the Warriors. It's the Kings. Why do we continually, Kurt Helin, why do we continually just look at the Nuggets, who were up 2-0, a strong, emphatic 2-0 on Phoenix, and just kind of shrug? What's going on with us? It's an us problem, right?
We do this with every sport and everybody, though, right? We do this in football, right? That quarterback can't win a Super Bowl until they win a Super Bowl. Right? Like, until you've done it, we don't think you can do it. And I think we do this with every sport. I think we're doing it with the Nuggets right now. They've looked like the best team in the West, partially just because, and it's really obvious in this series, they just got continuity. They've had the same coach, and guys have been in and out injured, but they've had the same core players for a long time, and all they've added are, KCP and Bruce Brown, who's been great, but, role players. The core has been together. So when Mike Malone goes, we got to change up our tactics, man, we got to start icing this pick and roll, or whatever he wants to do, they've already all done it. They've already been in the system. They know what's going on, and they can make those changes much more smoothly than a Phoenix team that's played, what are they up to now? 13 games together, 14 games together, whatever it is. Like, you can see that they're still searching for their depth, still searching for that continuity that just comes naturally to Denver right now.
And also, too, I think that we're not having that conversation simply because of the Suns and what they're dealing with. They don't have the continuity. They don't have a bench. So they're playing a lot of the minutes for this game because as soon as they sit down, whatever lead they has just dissipates immediately. And I just think that people just realize that the Suns, as of right now, don't have it. Oh, yeah, and I forgot Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce. CP3.
Paul Pierce.
See where my brain went. You can see Chris Paul is not playing. So that's just another added moment in terms of what the Suns aren't doing. So I really feel like that's the conversation of why we're not talking about Denver, because the Suns really are underwhelming right now.
Yeah. And now, did CP3 need a wheelchair to get off? Is that where the Paul Pierce game thing from?
Maybe.
That's right. It is. It's subliminal. Absolutely. I can see that connection right there.
Maybe.
But, certain players in your mind's eye, you have them doing certain things. You think of the Jumpman logo for Jordan. You think of like a nice fadeaway, or you think of Steph shooting that three, and then CP3 is grabbing a hamstring. Oh, man. Damn, dude. I just feel for him. Because you know he's going to get hurt.
I do too.
And at this point in his career, he's going to he cannot make it through an entire season or postseason. Either one. You low manage him in the regular season, he's going to get hurt in the postseason. You let him play during the regular season, he's going to get hurt in the postseason. He's just going to get hurt. He's going to get hurt in regular season and postseason. All right, final thing for you, Kurt Helin, before we let you go, or before you let us go. Either way. Did your MVP vote come to pass? Did your MVP, did your number one win, or was your number one a runner-up?
No, I had Embiid number one. In fact, my ballot ended up following the form exactly, which kind of surprised me. All the way down to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at fifth. I had Embiid there. I think he raised his offensive game even more this year, 33 and 10. while continuing to play defense. And I think he just meant his value to Philadelphia this year is, well, I was about to say it's been really evident, except when they won game one without him. But it's really been evident how important he is to what they do long term.
I really don't have any complaints there. I think that he's the MVP. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
No complaints.
He's the MVP. He's the MVP. When's the last time the regular season MVP? It's probably soon, recently. Regular season MVP won a championship.
Oh, I heard this the other day, and I don't remember. It's been a while. The other thing that the stat I was remembering was it's now been a decade since LeBron that a number one pick won MVP.
Oh, wow.
Interesting. That's an interesting stat, sure.
Yeah, but I forget now. It's been a little while, though. The MVP hasn't been a champion for like almost as long. I forget. It's like 10 or 12 years. I forget what it is now.
Well, hey, Kurt, this is what as you try to remember it, why don't you just go jump in the pool? Yet another flex, man. Like
I'm
another
jealous.
flex.
I'm very jealous, by the way.
Yeah.
Go jump in the pool. Enjoy yourself.
Late start game tonight. I got some time to sit in the pool with a drink before the game, float around. I'll be good.
I bet you will. Don't miss the game now. Don't be so much of a pool guy that you miss basketball. All right.
I will not.
He has the TV out there already, though. He might have a TV out there already, living the good life.
Yeah,
right.
We haven't done that one yet. I haven't gone that far down the road.
What we sipping on this afternoon?
Oh wow, nothing yet. It's still a little early. Anybody listening at NBC, I'm still working. So
yeah.
No, nice gin and tonic or something. I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. See what mood I'm in later.
Hey, tell those executives not to be so judgmental. Some people drink water. Some people drink something a little stronger.
And it's happy hour somewhere.
Exactly.
Top story, Lamar Jackson gave a press conference today. He is officially a Baltimore Raven for the next 5 years. Pretty good contract, Robert Mays. So now that it's done, your number one takeaway from Lamar Jackson remarrying the Ravens is what?
I'm excited. I mean, that's my first takeaway is that I can't wait to see it because they hired Todd Monken this offseason. And when you look at the offenses that he's run at Georgia and then even back in the NFL, those Bucs teams with Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson and Ryan Fitzpatrick were just endlessly entertaining. So the idea of this Ravens offense kind of stepping into the 21st century and being a more modern passing game, I've wanted to see that. And now you combine Lamar Jackson with that, Odell Beckham with that, they draft Zay Flowers. So just the idea of what the Ravens offense can be, that's the first place my mind went. But the second place is probably, this always made the most sense. It always made the most sense for these two sides to come to an agreement, a compromise of some sort, because I think it was in the interest of both parties to make something like this happen. And as a football fan and as one that wants to see the most fun product possible on the field, selfishly, I am happy that that's where they landed.
It's funny that you mentioned the Ryan Fitzpatrick time because that was the time when he was letting Deshaun Jackson was letting him wear his chain and his glasses at post game. So that was a real fun time for Tampa. And I agree with you. It's funny that you mentioned modern offense and in Baltimore we made those jokes already. So trust me, I've heard more than enough in terms of that. But you're right. What Greg Roman did in 2019 and 2020 was fine, but it was time to evolve. And to me, they were 2 years behind and letting him go. So this is the perfect situation now where you got some weapons on the outside. You got a Zay Flowers that you could potentially use outside as well as slot. You still got Mark Andrews, and now you have an offensive coordinator who will allow you to run a pro style like offense that Lamar has already been familiar with.
What do you think, Robert?
I totally agree. Okay. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that with guys who are runners, and guys that have that in their bag, I think the conversation recently has been that raises your floor early on in your career. You have a usefulness because you can make something happen even as you're maturing as a passer. And that did raise the floor of what the Ravens offense could be early on. And I think it made sense as kind of the early stages for what a Lamar-led team looked like. But eventually you need to raise the ceiling. Eventually you need to be able to take it to a different place and kind of stay 1-2 steps ahead of the way that teams are defending you. And I think it was time. So when you think about some of the flashes Lamar has shown as a passer, and you envision that in a more modern setting with a more modern set of weapons and a coordinator that it isn't theory, he's shown that he can do it with these sort of players in the past. I think it's hard not to look forward to what it could look like.
Mike,
So,
if I can
Robert,
interject here. Mike, if I can interject here, because I want to know your opinion too on this. How do both of you guys view now that Lamar is signed to this 5-year extension? How do you view this playing in the AFC in general? It's already a very thick conference. Clearly, Kansas City are the front runners. But how do you see this playing along? And Mike, I'm curious to know your thoughts as well.
Robert, you go first, Robert. Mine is gonna be quick.
I think they're right in the mix. I absolutely do. If you imagine the best case scenario for what the offense can look like, I think it has a chance to be really good. You know, the offensive line is still full of good pieces. They did a good job rebuilding that group, like just very Ravens stuff. Like we're signing Kevin Zeitler after he gets cut, and doing quiet stuff like that to kind of build that group. And then on defense, they again Ravens stuff. You signed Rocky Sin yesterday, so it doesn't affect the comp pick formula. You still have depth at those spots. They could always use a more traditional edge rusher. I think that's the one spot where they've struggled to find somebody and piecing it together with the Justin Houstons of the world. But I thought Mike McDonald did such a good job last year, and I thought they really hit their stride in the second half of the season. So if you project some of that success moving forward, I absolutely think that they could be a major player, even when you consider how loaded the AFC is.
I love the way you said Raven stuff, and I love Lamar Jackson. But Raven stuff is what I'm concerned about, because I'm wondering if we're at a point in football if the Ravens' offensive approach with their offensive personnel is enough to keep up with the big dogs. I still see some questions. Odell Beckham Jr., big name, but a big question too. Nelson Aguilar, y'all, come on. Come on. Aguilar is a question. Bateman is still a question. Zay Flowers, a question. Now, they may have great answers, but right now, it doesn't have the certainty of Josh Allen's got certainty in Buffalo. Joe Burrow's got certainty in Cincinnati. Patrick Mahomes got certainty in Kansas City, and they've got still too many questions for me in Baltimore. As a matter of fact, the Jets have more certainty with their offense than the Ravens do.
Oh,
so that's all up. Yeah, they do. Look, they added a quarterback. They're number one. Rita, you take their number one over yours.
Oh,
you take Garrett Wilson over any. You wouldn't take Garrett Wilson over anybody you got. I'm not talking about the tight end, receivers.
Nah,
you take Garrett Wilson over any of those receivers.
I hear you. I get it. I understand why we like Garrett Wilson so much. I don't know if Rashard Bateman is going to be that guy. He can't stay healthy. So to me, that's an unfair question. I hear you. The quarterback situation is solidified in New York, but come on. We still don't know how this is going to play out. Come on.
Michael, maybe New York is a stretch. New York may be a stretch, but the other one's solid.
Michael, Nelson Aguilar may be a question, but Nelson Aguilar would have been the best receiver on the Ravens for long stretches of the last 2 years. I think it's about the upgrades that you're making. The idea that Devin Duvernay was number 2 and they had to sign DeMarcus Robinson off the street, and he was a real player for them last year. If you look at the depth chart, even if it's simply an idea now, compared to what the depth chart looked like over the last 2 years, it's unbelievable. I mean, the upgrade and how many spots they've improved, it slots everyone down back, I think, into their rightful place on a wide receiver depth chart. It looks like an NFL wide receiver room for the first time in a while. And I think even if we still have to see what it looks like in practice, is an encouraging step in the right direction.
He has 100%.
I don't know.
Correct.
Oh, I know you would say that. I know you'd say that, Rita. I'm wondering if you have both in your illustrious careers ever gotten to a job and you ask for anything and the answer is yes. And I think that's what Aaron Rodgers is going through right now in New York. Hey, I want you to hire Nathaniel Hackett. Sure. Hey, how about Alan Lazard? Sure. Randall Cobb? Oh, yeah. We can do that too. Hey, how about this lineman? Yes, come on in. He's having a good time. He's going to, is there a hockey game tonight? Is there a basketball game? Is that whatever is happening? Was he at the Met? He wasn't at the Met Gala, was he? Was he at the gala? He should have been. I mean, he is a man about town, hanging out there with Sauce Gardner at the Knicks Heat game. Tell us about this honeymoon, Robert. And is the honeymoon going to end? When will it end? That's what I want to know. Is it going to end in September, or will it be January or February?
I'm going with another relationship metaphor. He's got very divorced dad energy right now. Like a very newly single energy right now is what Aaron Rodgers is rolling with. And that's, you know what? Good for him. You know, he was in a relationship for a decade and a half, his entire adult life. And now he gets to, you know, kind of be out there for the first time and enjoy himself. So I don't know how long it'll last, but, you know, the fact that it's starting on this note, it's all you can really ask for if you're the Jets. He's there for organized team activities. He's throwing to those guys. He's developing a rapport with them. And, you know, it's been up and down. You know, he runs hot and cold with how he's interfacing with the organization he works with teammates, with management, all that kind of stuff. But I think that you just try to enjoy it while it's good. And if you can ride that through at least season number 1, and put yourself in a position to be a contender in the short term, then this was a bet that was probably worth making.
He has to enjoy this now, because we are forgetting the AFC East is very revamped. Buffalo, obviously, is a team that you have to account for. Miami, we saw what they could do. Now, obviously, we know that Tua's health is something that came into play, but if he can stay healthy, we know what they have. So he better enjoy this little honeymoon phase right now, because he's going to have to get into work in order for the AFC East to be the Jets, quite frankly.
All right, Robert Mays, we wouldn't be brother from another if we didn't ask you just a draft question real quick. What was your favorite draft pick or favorite team on draft days? Who did you look at and say, okay, I see what you're doing and I like it?
It's hard not to like what the Eagles did. You know, you go get a Jalen Carter, who might be the most talented player in the draft. You get Nolan Smith to fortify his strength. You know, they go take a chance on Keely Ringo a little bit later in the draft, who's really talented. And, you know, they may have the infrastructure to get the most out of him. You make a buy low move to go get DeAndre Swift. I mean, so many of the issues, so many of the quote unquote roster holes that you saw from them coming into the weekend, you feel a lot better about it now. So I think this is a team that went to the Super Bowl last year and, again, is in a really good spot. You know, they would be the first team that jumps out. And I think that it's hard not to be excited about what the Colts did. You know, you have Anthony Richardson, who has this endless ceiling, and I understand it. You know, you're looking at Anthony Richardson and Will Levis with the 4th overall pick, and you think about kind of the timelines that both of those guys embody. Anthony Richardson gives you the firepower in the best case scenario to compete with those guys in the AFC for the next 8 to 10 years. He's going to require a long way to go. I mean, it's not a guarantee that he's going to get there, but I understand the thinking. And then after that, you just go bet on all of these athletes over and over again at all of these different positions. I mean, truly special athletes on the defensive line, in the secondary. I think they got younger. I think they got more explosive, and they picked up a lot of picks along the way, an extra 4th here, an extra 5th there. So they're the team that I think I feel most optimistic about after the draft compared to what I thought about them before the draft started.
All right, Robert Mays, thanks so much. And you just, you taught me something. I didn't know there was a divorced dad glow. I didn't know that was a thing.
You know the breakup glow. Come on, you've seen the breakup glow before. Come on.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he's out there now. Aaron Rodgers is out there, available in New York. It's a pretty good place to be. Got a lot of options. Is he really about it, or is it just he just likes the idea of it? We'll see. All right, Rita, if you don't mind, I just want to go over a few items quickly that we haven't gotten to in the first 50-plus minutes of this program. And I was thinking about this. You know, Jackson Mahomes is arrested, charged with aggravated sexual battery, very serious charge. Yeah. I'm not going to minimize that. That would be crazy. He's an influencer. He's on TikTok. He's a big deal. But the last name Mahomes is why he's getting headlines. I just wonder, you know, just a journalistic question. Is that fair on our part? Because there are other people out there who may have similar charges and they're not making headlines. It's almost like this attachment to Patrick Mahomes gives him a headline. I'm not feeling sorry for him, but it's almost like Mahomes is kind of dragged into this thing. How do you feel about that? Is that fair?
I mean, it is fair because he makes himself visible all the time and he rides on the back of his brother, unfortunately. So unfortunately for him, you know, anything that he does is going to be news. And so if he doesn't want the news on him, then maybe you should sit down a little bit. That's okay to do that.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a good reminder. Just be careful about who you bring along with you, because some people aren't ready for the spotlight. Speaking of people who aren't ready for the spotlight, can we look at Dillon Brooks? I like what you put in your feed. You said Dillon Brooks, is he a villain or a scapegoat? You think he's a scapegoat?
Maybe. Look, he didn't do anything, you know, off the court that he didn't, you know, that was enough for them to say under any circumstances. Now, did he talk and did he write some checks that is, you know, like didn't cash?
Yeah.
Yes. But I do feel like that there's some scapegoat mentality going on here.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.